his name is Evan. He's like, hey, are you all right? Are you feeling okay? So you're not all there. And I'm like, so I told him what happened. My wife walks into the room and says, yeah, he's weird today. I mean, something's going on with him. So I kind of told them, and they're like, man, you got to go to the hospital. I'm like, oh, I'm feeling better. I'll be fine. But through the whole entire afternoon they were there, they knew that something was happening to me, and they kept telling me, you gotta go, man. Where are you? What's wrong with you? And I'm like, I'll be fine. I'm better now than yesterday. I'll be better tomorrow. That's what I was thinking. And but throughout the whole entire time, it felt like when they were talking, I was out of the conversation. Some things that I didn't understand. Actually, majority of the things I didn't understand, or I would respond to them with things that did not make any sense. Like my friend Zach asked me something about I think it was something about the meat, or no, my patty or something like that, and I responded back like, oh yeah, the meat's really good. Things that didn't make any sense. So, they will be cracking jokes, and I have no idea what they're saying.
Wow.
So it was just weird. I knew I was out of it. So the next day, that evening when they left, my wife is like, you gotta go to the hospital. I'm like stubborn. I'm like, no, I feel better. I'm not going to the hospital. I feel okay. I feel better. So the next day, she woke up and she went to church with the girls. I stayed home, and I was feeling a little bit better. But the only thing that I did notice which was worse, was that my comprehension was kind of like it was gone. Like my kids would come up to me and they will talk to me, and I'll have to be like, what, and they'll have to repeat again, and I kind of had to like put some words together to understand the context of what they were trying to tell me. So it wasn't clear. That was clear in the morning of Saturday. So after it happened, it was clear, but then later in the day, it wasn't clear at all. So I was losing that. My memory was back, speech was sort of there, but my comprehension was fading. And very, very quickly, when she left that morning to church, I started feeling like, man, something's really happening right now. I felt like a lot of pressure on my forehead, not a headache, but it felt like I had a ton of brakes on my forehead. Like I literally felt like drug-induced or something, like I had to squint, and I was like, man, this is really bad. I definitely need to go to the ER. Now I'm like, I gotta go. So she came home, and as soon as she walked in, she's like, you know what? You're having a stroke. She had ran into a friend of hers who's a marathon runner, in very good shape, and that she actually had one. So people that you would never think would have a stroke because of her activity and all that, she had one. So she's like, sounds like he may have this. So I'm like, and I wasn't arguing. I was like, yeah, at this point, just take me. So got in the car, drove to the hospital, and obviously they admitted me right away. I mean, you know how long it takes sometimes to get into the ER, but it was like I wasn't even done filling out the form, and I already had a nurse next to me with a wheelchair.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh man, this is serious.
Yeah.
So I walked in, and I stayed there for 4 days in the hospital, and then not until maybe the third day is when they realized that I had the dissection in the carotid. Because they were like with my numbers were perfect, my blood pressure was perfect. No, like my cholesterol levels are like super low.
So
I'm pretty healthy.
Do you think the dissection was prior to the Atlanta trip, or
no? No, it definitely happened. While I was on that roll, with all the grinding, all his knuckles, the pressure. Yeah. It was completely not only compressed. Yeah. But it was just the grinding, like this. Like imagine doing this to your neck for maybe
it's similar,
5-10 seconds.
It's similar to a punch choke. That punch choke on the carotids. That would probably be very similar to that. So
yeah. I was sort of justifying the fact that I had a headache the day before. There's nothing related to jiu-jitsu. I wanted to believe that, but it's not. It was just that. I just had a headache on the plane just because it happened. I was dehydrated, not eating well, and that's what just caused it. But that had nothing to do with this.
Did they put a stent in your neck?
No, they did not. They decided to just wait for 3 months, see if it heals naturally.
Wow.
And so I went back to the doctor. My first scan was about a week later, and then again after Thanksgiving last year, and they looked at it and they was like, yeah, there's no need for a stent anymore. We look completely healed, with the exception that area is obviously narrower, right? So that's the reason why I'm on Plavix right now, because it's not only a blood thinner, but it also helps with cholesterol, for the cholesterol to slide through, because they don't want me to have any buildup on the carotid.
What scan did you say you were getting next week or something? You had a scan coming up here?
In May. Yeah, it's just the next scan. With the cardiovascular. He's going to just continue seeing. I think this will be my first one since last Thanksgiving, and after this one, I think I'll just have one scan every year, just to see if there's if there's any more damage, or if it's just the same. Back in after Thanksgiving, it looked good according to them. It looked really good. So
I
didn't jump in.
I asked my doc. It's funny because I asked my doctor if there was like a preventative stand that I could take from year to year, just to make sure because I have a stent in my neck, and so but he didn't think it was necessary to scan. So I don't know. Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I would, just for peace of mind. I'd probably do it.
Well, that's what I was wondering. Is there something, what's out there that's, low cost? You know what I mean? I mean, if jiu-jitsu players are going to keep doing this, how do we monitor our carotids? I mean, that's the main question.
Yeah, absolutely. And the scan is basically kind of like one of those that, like when women are pregnant, they go for the sonogram on their stomach. It's the same thing. They put the gel on and the thing that they rub on.
Huh. Interesting.
And I probably, if you have a chance, I'll probably do it for sure. Just peace of mind. Just control it maybe once every 6 months or once a year at least. Obviously, my roles have changed.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you.
I didn't roll again. I didn't go back to it right away. I took the time. In that time, I'm like, okay, I started jogging a little bit. I did some yoga, but I started doing jiu-jitsu again in December. Yeah. It's about 5 months later. And, but it was no gi, everything no gi. I didn't want to have the gi on. Well, for class, yes, but rolling, I would take the gi top off, and I would just do no gi. I didn't want to have any of the gi manipulation, or even just the pull, even if someone was just pulling me down or something. I just didn't want to have that pressure on my neck. It's kind of one of those things, you have an injury in your ankle or your knee, you're kind of skeptical. You're like, you don't want to just risk it too much. So, but ever since I think in February, about 2 months ago, I kind of like, it was just just regular rolls with anybody, just like before, with the exception of obviously I'm tapping. Someone just gets on my neck right away, and then like they already have it locked. I'm like, I tap. I don't try to escape that anymore. Or if before I'd be like, okay, one hand in the neck is okay, I'll defend the second hand. Now I'm like, you don't put any hands on my neck, no hands at all. So that's I try to prevent that. So but I'm telling you, man, I feel better than I felt actually before. Yeah. And I think that's not just because of the medicine. I think that I think it's just in the time that I was out, I got in better shape also, and the way that I'm rolling, I think is a little more preventive. Yeah. I didn't really care before that. I would be like one of those guys that, okay, if it's an arm bar, I'll tap right away. Joint stuff, lock. I don't want anything broken. I'll tap right away. But I was thinking always, with a choke, I'll just fight through it. Well, in the worst case scenario, I'll get put unconscious for a few seconds, and I'll put up with it. Yeah, but obviously I didn't know the risk.
Yeah, I didn't know the risk either. I mean, that's the exact mentality. It's fight through it. I don't know if you know, but there's some medical articles that came out about the same time as your accident, and it was in regards to these types of manipulations of the neck that are causing the dissections, and then that is causing obviously what happened to you. Mine, it sounds like I already had the dissection. The clot had already formed, and so I had a weird feeling in my neck, the whole week prior to the accident. And so when he put the choke on me on the right side, I thought I was safe, and the blood clot that was on the left, that was already torn, shot the clot to the brain. That's why I had my instant paralysis.
Oh yeah.
So, but it's you sound good. I mean, and when I say like I feel great. Like I'm not the same person, obviously, than I was before. But I feel great because when you survive something like that. Compared to what you hear horror stories about people who are like, incapacitated and really severely handicapped, I feel great for the fact that I'm not, and I'm still rolling, and I'm still moving. My roles are different. I'm attacking I'm attacking people a lot differently than I used to. Like I have, people don't really know that this can happen, just like you and I said. Even people in my gym are still slightly delusional of the fact that this happened, and they saw it firsthand. However, nobody's done the due diligence, nobody's done the research. There hasn't been enough reports. All the reports that have come out, it's kind of been like hush. Nobody really wants to talk about it. So the truth of the matter is for if the risk exists, then you need, and you can identify what that risk is, which I just think it's ironic that the article comes out in the medical paper the same month that you had yours, the month after me and then Ray had his, and then an article came out on Jiu Jitsu Times with me, and then a number of people started to reach out, and then even I went on to like young stroke survivors on Facebook just to get into that network and hear what other people are experiencing, and a number of those people have experienced people who had these strokes in martial arts, and same thing, neck manipulations and so forth. So it's interesting to hear everybody's stories, and what I can tell you firsthand, like hearing your story, about like you don't know somebody's name and you're like, "Whoa." I mean, when it happened to me, like mine was instantaneous, like because I couldn't move my whole body. That was huge warning signs. But at first, like I was talking to people, like trying to yell to my training partners, like, "Woo!" It sounded like Charlie Brown, really. And they're all looking at you like you're just insane, and it's like just like you said, everything's like the words that were coming out of my mouth were like slow motion. It was like, "Woo!" Like it's like they must have been thinking, "What's this guy doing?" You know what I mean? And it sounds like a horrible shroom trip or something like that,
I know, but in your mind, you're fine. You're speaking perfectly. You think you're all there.
Well, here's the thing. In my mind, I wasn't though. In my mind, I was trying to.
Okay.
And it was like it couldn't come out, and that's when I started to have the, oh shit, what the fuck, this is not good, because. I was laughing when you were saying how you were like trying to remember dude's name, and you're like, well, whatever. It's like, and you're like, what's going on here? Something's not right.
Yeah.
That was exactly like you're having a conversation in your mind, and you're talking to yourself, whoa, this isn't good. Like when I was going down, I'm thinking like, what's my daughter's name? I'm like, oh snaps. I'm like, I don't know my kids' names anymore. I'm like, oh, something's not good here. And that's so, people I think need to be aware that, okay, the risk exists. Great. We've identified it. What are some signs that we can? I mean, you're a success story. I mean, I don't want people to take, you know, these things lightly. Like, oh well, Jay got through 2 days of, you know, training, and
it was a miracle. It was a miracle.
It is a miracle. This is not like just a concussion. You know what I mean?
No.
This is brain damage, like hardcore.
Absolutely. I had the cardiovascular, the floor doctor, the neurologist coming by, and they were all like, "You have no idea how lucky you are." It's like definitely God's watching over you, because this is super serious. I mean, this is with not only that I was alive, that I survived it, but the fact that I was able to recover so fast, it was a miracle. They were surprised.
Yeah.
So it's definitely, I'm grateful, obviously, that I'm where I am right now, but it's definitely changed everything, not just in the way that I practice my jiu-jitsu now, which is a little safer. I try to be more on top than on the before I would be like, okay, I'll just go from the bottom, not just stay here for a while, whatever. Now my goal is to always be on top if I can, because I just want to avoid anything that could come to my neck. But even just at home, right? Like what you just said, is like it's not remembering your kids' names or not understanding what they're telling you. That was freaky. That was super freaky. I mean, I remember at the hospital just laying there. At one point, I was alone there, and it's just kind of like I was thinking, you know, like, why did this happen to me? You know, like why? And it's like, what am I gonna recover? Because I wasn't sure if I was going to recover then. While this was happening, you'd give me something to read, and I still have trouble reading. So I'll be like, am I ever going to be the right person? Not only, what about my kids? How am I going to work? Am I going to be able to be the same person at work?
Yeah.
Or what's going on? What's going to happen with that? I mean, what kind of guy am I going to be? What kind of I've always been active. Okay, if it's not jiu-jitsu, will I be able to do any other sports? Will I be able to run or whatever?
Yeah.
All these things go through your mind. So I'm just thankful that thank God I recovered, and I am where I am, and I can continue training. Now, the doctors obviously probably would never say, "Hey, Chris, Jake, good job, go back to jiu-jitsu," because that's not something that a doctor would, unless you fight for the UFC.
Yeah.
They're not gonna say, "Hey, go do jiu-jitsu, you know, get choked and get yourself put in arm bars and things like that." They're never gonna go there. They're never gonna bless it. But I just think the smart thing to do would be to remember that first of all, some of us are. In my case, I'm not obviously a professional athlete. I don't plan on being one. I love jiu-jitsu as a lifestyle. I enjoy it. I enjoy the friendships that I've made that are going to be live. You know, they're going to last a lifetime. My best friends are there, and I wouldn't change that at all. So I got to remember that I'm there not because I'm getting paid. I'm having fun. I'm learning self-defense. I'm exercising. I'm getting in shape, and I'm learning something in the process. So if someone chokes me, it's fine. Now I just tap right away. I mean, you know when you need to tap. You don't need to force anything. If you already feel like, there's no reason. So just drop the ego. Everybody says just leave the ego outside, right? But I really think about that now, and I'm like, okay, choke is there, tap.
Yeah.
No, don't fool around with that. That's we're lucky to be alive right now, but it could have easily gone worse. Or best thing there will be probably either get recovered. But if you don't recover, the best thing is really die, because the worst thing that can happen is for you to become a vegetable, and that would be horrible.
It is, man. I mean, I don't know about you. I mean, yours is different than mine, because yours was you had 2 days of floating around in La La Land, really not knowing what's going on and just thinking you're fatigued, which is what anybody would really think. And especially like, guys like in jiu-jitsu, it's like, you're resilient, it's, that's just your mindset, so, that's that. And, but so I don't know at what point, I should ask you, what point I started thinking about my kids and my family as I'm getting carted off in this ambulance. You know what I mean? And, basically paralyzed and don't know anything. I started thinking about my kids, and, first thing I started thinking about was the life insurance policy and trying to figure out what's going to happen. And I couldn't even, like I said, I couldn't even figure out these kids' names. I thought it was ending, you know what I mean? And it really puts a different outlook into, like you said, the whole thing with training. It's like, at the end of the day, you have this family, and it's been hard for me too, because they train, and I can tell you right now, like, my mindset with the way that they train is completely changed. Like, could you imagine, allowing your daughters to get choked and getting there? I mean, think about these kids, how if our carotids are potentially getting dissected, well, you know what I mean? I can't imagine that these kids' little carotids from chokes could be in high danger as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's scary. It's a scary thought. It's a scary thought, and I think one of the things that I was thinking I wanted to make a point about mentioning is that I believe that every academy should at least know the signs, how to recognize if someone's having a stroke. Like one of the things that the doctor was telling me while I was at the hospital, because my wife was like, he should have come here right away, Yeah. And the doctor said, you know what? Most patients that are having strokes for other reasons, not just carotid, but any kind of stroke, most people don't think of going to the doctor right away. They're like, because typical sign of a stroke for most people is the left arm is a little sore and pain or having issues with it, right? So kind of like they know something's happening and it could be stroke, but in most cases they don't, and they don't go to the hospital, or they don't think of a doctor right away. They'll think, oh, I'm going to be better, especially men, right? I mean, majority of us don't like to go to doctors, and we think that we can just swing through things, and that's just not the case. But I mean, if jiu-jitsu schools learn about the signs of a stroke, like when you go to the hospital, you see posters there, recognize signs for a stroke. Those posters are there. Yeah. That's what I learned. Are there not for the stroke patient, but for the person that is with that person. So to recognize what's happening to this guy. Oh, you know what? This guy's having a stroke. Because the guy that's having the stroke is not thinking about, I'm having a stroke and I need to go to the hospital. That doesn't happen. So that's just one of those things. And there are very few things that are very simple to identify. And one of them is actually having someone smile. That's what I learned. If you're like if you think someone is having a stroke, one of the things is having a smile. If they can't smile, that's probably a sign. Or there are other aspects as well. They may be able to do that, but not something else. So people need to know how to recognize that, which is funny because sometimes my friends, when we're rolling, and I get tapped or something, they go like, "Hey, smile!" I smile. I'm like, "Okay, good."
Well, here the funny thing is like, you know how, like, yeah, man. The truth of the matter is you and I both know every time we jump in the water, we're swimming with the sharks. You know what I mean? I mean, it's a risk that you run for doing something that you love, and your friends, your family's there. You don't know another way of life, But it's funny because I get back. I'm the coach of the Marquette University Jiu Jitsu team, and they don't care that I have these guys are just animals, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So we bang pretty hard, and when I was first getting back into with those guys, I'd get at the heart rate would go up, and one guy landed on my finger on my back because it was intense roll, so you just keep going and going. It's a big dude, and he crushed my finger. So I had like a hammer finger where like the finger like literally like the tip is like you can't keep it up. It's like dead. It's like laying there, and I just pick it up. I run to one of the kids. I'm like asking him if I'm trying to, do I look like I'm having a stroke? Because your hand's going out. You know what I mean? I'm not thinking about, and that's the other thing is I don't have the feelings in my, my feelings in my hands are a little bit different. So, everything scares you. You think you're having a stroke all the time. You know what I mean? That's how it is for me, man. So
for me too.
And dudes, so dudes are asking, they look at like, Chris, you all right? You look like you're dazed out of it. I'm like, no, I'm good. But you know what, dude? That's part of the process. Like, that's why I'm spreading the message. That's what I'm doing. I wanted to get in touch with people like yourself to hear your story, because your story is different than mine, and you know what? Yours is probably going to be a lot more common in this community, and it sounds like like from what I've kind of seen before and what the stories that I've heard, and I've got way more to come. Yours is mostly what we're going to be seeing in the future is not what happened to me, where it's like instant paralysis, and it's going to be like a slow. And you're right about all the stories that I've heard so far. Everybody they talk to themselves, and they're just trying to figure out what the hell's going on, and they keep blowing it off and rationalizing with themselves. And I remember what it was like in the ambulance. I completely remember, trying to figure out like what is going on with my brain. I didn't know I wasn't like, oh shit, I'm having a stroke, son of a gun. I'm like, it's like, whoa, this is weird. Whoa, weird. Like you're going to like another place.
Yeah. You don't think of a stroke. You're right.
No.
You never think of it.
No, for sure.
To me, a stroke was when you associate someone who's having a bad lifestyle.
Yeah.
High cholesterol. That kind of stuff, or overweight, things like that. That's what you think of.
72-year-old men with gray hair on the couch.
Yeah.
On the pack.
Exactly.
They're in the Packer room. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's terrifying. It's terrifying, and I think it's great that you're doing this though, Chris, because
Thanks.
when it happened to me, I just like you did, you started like finding people, right?
Yeah.
But I wasn't able to find anybody. Like shortly after that, I think one of my friends sent me one of the articles where we talked about your story, and that's when I reached out to you.
Yeah.
But prior to that, I was just like, I went from people having strokes doing jiu-jitsu, nothing. Grappling in general, wrestling, nothing. I found people that were doing like getting this carotid dissected by like weightlifters, like Olympic weightlifters, or I found someone, I think it was like got hit with a baseball to the neck, a fast pitch. Things like that, or like cross hit with a stick to the neck, because it's impact.
It is.
But I was like, okay, I can't find anything, and even my doctor, the cardiologist, not the cardiologist, the cardiovascular, was like, I've never seen anything like this before.
Wow.
All I know is that you are a miracle. That is a miracle that you are alive. And you should not take this lightly. I mean, because he was like about 2 weeks after, when I had my first scan from the hospital, leaving the hospital, he was like, the fact that you're here, that you drove here, that you're standing here, that you can talk now, that you can read and understand what's happening is just by itself a miracle. So just don't take this for granted. He was like, don't do jiu-jitsu again. But it's I mean, it is what it is. I've never expected to get a blessing from a doctor to go back and do it. I just love doing it, and I just have to change my approach, which is if you touch my neck, I'm just gonna defend it, and then if it's there, I'm just gonna tap. I'm just I'm not getting paid for it, or my family doesn't rely on jiu-jitsu for us to survive, so I'm just my hobby.
I'm glad to hear that, man, and I'm definitely going to keep spreading the word and putting all the stories together, and one day we'll have this big tree of stories that not to be a negative on the sport, but simply to be a positive, so that we can keep continuing to train years to come. And like you said, this needs to go into the academies. These academy owners need to see this. They need to understand what these